Welcome to Tomorrow Ready, quick LTC insights from JMA, a series where we provide you, employee benefits professionals, with news, tools, and views about group long-term care insurance planning.
Welcome back to Tomorrow Ready. I'm Ivette Garzon. I'm here with everyone's favorite, Steve Cain. Hey, Steve, how are you doing?
Good. How you doing today?
Doing great. Let's hop into it. Spotify just dropped their Wrapped. All these businesses are, following up on what their year looked like. So let's talk about what our year looked like.
Absolutely. And it's funny. Spotify sent me something too, and they said like I had the taste of a 60-something-year-old, based on the music that I'm listening to. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So I've been thinking about like how was our year, right? And I think it was
Yeah.
okay. It wasn't, and maybe I'm saying that because we had these expectations or we felt this Washington wave, since
Yeah.
2021 to now. And I think we kind of normalized, what the business is going to look like. So I do think that it was a good year, a lot of enrollments. I would say we probably had a handful of clients decide to move the enrollments into 26, which is kind of out of our control, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But in terms of the number of engagements, the number of enrollments, and the number of referrals from our broker partners, pretty strong. People are still interested in long-term care. And then you look at, okay, how did the enrollments perform? I would say people spent close to the same amount of money, but not
Okay.
as many enrollees. And
Oh, okay.
that could have to do
Interesting.
with the economy, right? I mean, you and I have talked about it.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, like we've always mentioned, I think anytime that you're seeing an administrative change, the economy gets impacted, right? So that's really interesting to kind of see that you're still seeing the same amount, just maybe a little light on the gas. So, speaking of
Yeah,
economy, how do you feel like that really impacted
yeah,
us?
I don't want to use it as an excuse, but look, these are discretionary dollars that we're spending. So I've
Yeah.
got a menu of voluntary benefits, and I have to decide as an employee what's most important. And if I'm not impacting, if I'm not feeling it with family members right now, I might be
Hmm.
feeling something else. I might be feeling inflation. I might be feeling,
Yeah.
other things that I care more about right now. But the bottom line is, this need isn't going away. The fundamentals haven't changed. Not as many healthcare workers as we need, caregivers.
Yeah.
The cost of care is going to go up, up, up. And we're kind of going to age into the issue where more Gen Xers are going to feel the pain of mom and dad and going to want to look
Yes.
to these products to protect themselves.
100%. So, we're so big and everyone knows us for our legislative updates. Anything on that forefront?
Yeah, I mean, I would say nothing. That's the news, right? Um, given we've got midterms coming up, given the fact that we're living in such a polarized political world right now, I do
Yeah.
not see any legislation on the horizon at the state or federal level. Now, you will
Okay.
likely see in 26 more states begin to explore the issue because of the economics of it. But in terms of
Yeah.
like legislation, implementation of statewide programs, I just don't see it happening. A lot of these states
Okay.
that were keen on it are in significant budget shortfalls, and their
Yeah.
state leadership have said no new taxes. We can't go back and ask constituents to pay new taxes. So I don't see anything happening. And so that means the onus is on us as professional consultants to still highlight the need for long-term care planning in the absence of legislation. So, a colleague and I were talking earlier today, we're back to selling long-term care.
Yeah. Yeah. Going back to our fundamentals, finding new ways to also tie it in, right? Tying it with financial wellness, protecting your 401k,
There you go.
going back to the basics, as we like to say here. So we've checked off the economy, and this year we've checked off legislative updates. So let's talk about carriers. Any updates on the carrier front?
Yes, really positive in that we have new entrants into the marketplace. Over the past year, we
Oh,
saw
okay.
Voya and Aflac come into the market. We're seeing the other carriers that we work with kind of reshuffle and change around their product portfolios, where we're seeing, permanent portfolios and then also new term products with long-term care benefits included. And so I'm encouraged. I've signed some NDAs that won't allow me to share carrier names, but there are multiple insurance companies that are looking at this segment of the market saying, I want to play here. My preferred underlying structure of the product is life insurance along with long-term care benefits. So they're hybrid
Yeah.
products. But they're saying, hey, we want to play. It's not too crowded of a space for them. And so I do expect to see some market entrants. Now, it might vary where they play. They
Yeah.
might say, look, we want to attack the middle market as opposed to the large group market. But I think we're going to see some new carriers next year.
I'm very excited for
Yeah.
that. Cannot wait.
Yep.
Okay, so we've talked about this year. Let's, look at your, fortune ball,
Yeah.
right? Give me your
Yeah.
fortune teller outlook on what 2026 is going to look like. Your crystal ball. What do we got?
Yeah, isn't there like this like disclosure in financial services where it's like past performance is not an indicator of future, work? I don't
Yes.
know. What I do know is the big beautiful bill, comes into play in January. And
Yes.
what does that mean for
Big, big,
long-term
big.
care? I'm not sure yet. What I do know is that it will impact Medicaid. And so
Yeah.
Medicaid, the joint state and federal program as it relates to long-term care, pays for long-term care support and services in skilled nursing homes only to
Hmm.
folks that are at the poverty level, who have divested all of their assets, spent all their money down to a point where they need this support. And it's a great program if you don't have any options, right? But
Absolutely.
you're going to see strain on these programs. You're going to see cutbacks. I just read an article today that 80 cents on the dollar is paid to a skilled nursing home for a Medicaid recipient. So imagine you're running a nursing home and somebody goes
Yeah.
on Medicaid, you're getting 80 cents on the dollar. Like you're losing money on that patient.
Exactly.
And so
Yeah.
I think that's only going to get exacerbated, as the big beautiful bill kicks in. And so we're going through this like cost shifting, where the cost of long-term care might be shifted on us as the
Not us.
consumer as
Yeah.
opposed to these programs. So what's that going to mean for long-term care? It's more important, the insurance, right? The life with long-term care insurance is more important. Number two, I think at some point it's going to generate state level legislative activity, right? The states are trying to
Yeah.
figure out a way, hey, if our budget is less, for this
Yeah.
issue, how are we going to pay for these people needing
What are
long-term
we gonna
care?
do?
And so I think that's going to start the engines in terms of legislative conversations again. It's going to take some time to kick in, but
Of
I
course.
think 26, 27, you're going to see more states talking about this stuff. So I do think, and I know I'm myopic, Yvette, the insurance is a great way to solve this problem, not to rely
Yeah.
on these social programs. They're great for a
Programs.
subset of the population, but for many that are working, it's not the answer.
Yeah, and like we always say, don't let perfect, be the hindrance of the how do we say
Don't let
this?
perfect be the enemy of good. Yeah.
Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Yes.
Yeah.
So even just having some sort of care, right? Some sort of plan in place helps. It helps so much. And I think it's on us as partners and our broker partners to have these conversations to definitely push this up to, the top of the checklist when we're following up with our employers and potential clients. Well, that is it for this time. We'll see everybody in 2026.
Yeah.
And
Happy
we
New Year,
hope
everybody.
everyone has a wonderful holiday break.